As you just saw in the last section, the Baltic Room was a flashing point for Seattle drum and bass. And the crew that everybody can hold responsible for lighting that fire, was the 360 BPM.
The night 360 BPM started because, like, you know, I started playing like techno and stuff when I started mixing, and I found drum and bass. I went over to a friend's house once, and he had bought a couple Metalheads records, and he's like, "Here, you should try mixing these. They're really fun to mix." So I threw them on the turntables, and I started mixing them. I'm like, "Wow, this is awesome!" And I immediately fell in love with it because I came from like a heavy metal background, so the tempo of drum and bass just like immediately resonated with me. So ever since then, I just started buying drum and bass records, and when I had enough drum and bass records to play a set, at the time I was working with Tasty Shows, which were they were doing big shows in Seattle, all sorts of shows. I was working with them and with promotion, passing out flyers and stuff, just a young kid. And I went to Jared at Tasty Shows, who was like my brother, and I told him, "Hey, I wanted to start this night. You know, can you help me out? I'm gonna have money. I support 18-year-old kid." And you know, I convinced him to kind of let me try it out, and he was into it. And with the help of him, we came up with we were sitting there coming up with the night, and I wanted to find a name for the night that represented a fast-paced music but have some sort of meaning behind it. So it just came to me, you know, 360 BPM. You know, it's really fast. Obviously, the music's not that fast, but the whole cycle of life thing had a lot of meaning to me. So that was the name of the night, and we booked On E from Delight as the first headliner, first opening night. It was On E from Delight, and you know, nobody knew what drum and bass was. Nobody listened to it, and you know, they didn't really like it, but they went there to see On E from Delight, you know, and it was a successful night, and Nitsu and Max opened for On E, and Nitsu and Max were the only other drum and bass people I knew that even played drum and bass in the city. I wasn't even friends with them, but I just knew that they played drum and bass. Wow. And so I hit them up and asked them if they wanted to open for On E and just kind of get them involved, because I knew I couldn't do it on my own, and they were, you know, the only two guys I knew in the whole city that even played it. So they were stoked immediately. You know, it was like we were a team, really. They were the same age as me, and we were on had the same goals. So that's how it started. It started with me and Max and Nitsu. Shortly after that, Brian Rauschenbach, DJ Theory, he was working at the power plant up the road, just like a block away from Vinylized, which is where we had 360. And he came down, and he was super stoked because he liked drum and bass. He had a bunch of old records from England. I don't know how he got him, but he was into drum and bass too, just didn't know it. And he came down, and his enthusiasm, he wanted to play with us, and so that's how he got involved. And so at that point, it was me, Nitsu, Max, and Theory. And around that time, I reconnected with Marcus Lolario. And me and Marcus, we went to junior high school together. And I hadn't seen him in years, and I can't remember where it was we reconnected or hooked up. But you know, we were really good friends in junior high, and when we reconnected, I just brought him directly into my world. And at the time, he was managing, you know, bands. I think he was managing Grunt Truck at the time. You know, it was like a 16-year-old kid managing Grunt Truck, and he came on board as our manager, and was just the business side of things. And thank God he did, because he's you know, he took care of ended up taking care of all the bookings, so we could all kind of sit back and be DJs and help out with the cause, but not have to deal with the business aspect of things. It just seemed like at one point demo just was in our face, and I can't remember. It seemed like he probably came on board around 1998 or 99, and he was just an enthusiastic kid, and we just, you know, same thing. He was just on our page, and he loved what we were doing, and he was a budding DJ who had super enthusiasm, and it was just like a brother right away. Same with Slantooth. I think we met him around the same time, maybe a little bit after. And, you know, same thing with him, man. He's just a just down for the cause, and it's like you run into something like that, you're like, welcome, welcome on board, welcome to the team, let's kick it, so yeah.
The 3-year anniversary was like the pinnacle of all of our hard work that occurred prior to the 3 years prior. It was epic. The energy in that room was unlike any energy we'd ever experienced for drum and bass, and it was just like, we felt like all our hard work finally paid off. And it was the people's faces at that party. I just remember, they were just, it's like we saw so many people get it at that moment. It was great. That 3-year anniversary was by far the best drum and bass party I think Seattle ever saw. Just because of the newness and whatnot. So at that point, the Renegade Hardware crew was like making the most cutting edge sound in drum and bass, and it was the sound I really resonated towards, and all of us in 360 really seeing all those people just going off, at that party was awesome. It was why we did what we were doing. That energy. Yeah, the anniversary party has been really cool because it is like going to a high school reunion. We all started back then. A lot of us started back in 1996, and some of us are still going to this anniversary party. So, and then every year, some more people get added onto that group of people, and yeah, it's great to go to those anniversary parties because you might run into someone you haven't seen in a year or even 2 years, and it's one big happy family. It's great to get together on that specific night and just celebrate life and each other and drum and bass. And that's a party that I will continue to do until I can't do that anymore. There's so many good parties, a lot of good shows at Numos. Numos was a great venue for the amount of people that were into the drum and bass crowd. It had a banging sound system, and it got really rowdy and crazy in there, especially with the summer session. And I always wanted to get the younger kids involved. I love the rave culture, and that's where I came from. So it was always important to me to try to get them involved whenever possible. So the summer sessions, I wanted to include that younger kids, and I did those parties with John from System 6, and Marcus helped us book the talent for that night, and yeah, those were great. Just doing it monthly, every month to just build excitement for the next month, and great venue for it, and yeah.
I went through the whole stage in my life where I was a messed up raver, taking a lot of drugs and kind of making wrong decisions, and at the time it seemed like all the DJs and everybody I was around was in the same boat as I was. There wasn't anybody that I could turn to and kind of gain inspiration from. So that was a lot of the inspiration of why I got my act together and started DJing. So for me, performing and interacting with that crowd was a very, very healing thing for myself, and I feel like, I wanted to be there to maybe help somebody else. So that was kind of my inspiration for kind of going down that path. And I always really used to playing at Raves at 4:30 in the morning, because that was when you get the kids that really started thinking about their issues. At least that's how it was for me. So I always wanted to be in that sort of environment so I could maybe help somebody. But that energy is very healing, and that's what it's always been about for me.
Awesome, man.
Favorite DJs? Andy C, no doubt. Kills It. Friction, I think, is amazing. Skibbity, MC Skibbity, killed it. We had him when we were doing 360 at the Hot Box, Sweat Box. I think it was like our 2-year anniversary. We had Skibbity and DJ Footloose, and they killed it for like 15 people. And it was sick. Like all of us were just going off. And Skibbity, he was like he was playing in front of 4,000 people. He didn't give a shit. It was great.
Anything that you want to add?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who supported me and 360, and special thanks to Marcus and Slantooth and the demos, to Nitsu and Max, and to Theory, who were there with me through the thick and thin, and all the people that made it possible, the people that continue to make it happen. Continue to break it down and inspire people.
Are there going to be more anniversary parties in the future?
Every year I'm going to do an anniversary party, and that's a party I can't not do.
I'm not saying that's a mistake either.
I just have one more thing to say. Boom shakalaka attack.
Hey, fuck off!
Boom shakalaka attack.
By 2002, the drum and bass explosion had already happened. Nightclubs were starting to refocus, bringing drum and bass heads different kind of music, a little wider variety other than just your average floor filler. DJs Rama and Decimate started a drum and bass weekly that focused a lot more on the raga side. They also tossed in some two-step and UK garage. Aristocrats was a club that stepped it up for drum and bass in 2002, hosting up to 3 weekly events. Bent was another new drum and bass night at Aristocrats. The drum and bass portion was hosted by DJ Terzo, and it featured a skewed view of your regular scheduled reality when it came to drum and bass. This night had experimental, drum funk, and everything you wouldn't find in every other club. In between its massive annual events, USC found time to do one-off events like this one when they brought out Andy C and MCGQ. DJ Rince of Compound Records San Francisco have moved up to Seattle and partnered with DJ Nitsu to form a new night called Set Speed. Originally started at the Superhighway, the night moved over to Aristocrats. The night focused on having a lot of local talent, and they also used the night for numerous CD release parties. Another promotion group that came to Aristocrats in 2002 was Motor Booty. They alternated Friday nights with Set Speed. They hosted drum and bass as well as other genres in the different rooms. It was the Junglist division of Motor Booty that would go on to later start Onset that year. The spot has been used for an all-ages venue going back past 2000, but now, with the closure of NAB, there was really no location for the all-ages drum and bass heads to get their fix. This helped form a tight, underage drum and bass community in Seattle. They had to work together and work hard to make the shows happen. One of those dedicated group of all-ages junglists was Das Baben. They liked it rough and they liked it dark, and they were seriously committed to bringing drum and bass to the underage kids in Seattle. The Das Baben crew consisted of DJs Lucky, CB, Dirty Steve, and MC Fitz holding it down as the master of ceremonies. The Bass Invaders, Drone, Nervous Breakdown, and Rob Noble were another crew that sprang out of the all-ages action to have a long and lasting impression on the Seattle drum and bass community. The Bass Invaders celebrated their one-year anniversary at Shango Village, bringing out Perfect Combination and Cause for Concern. In 2003, Bass Invader Rob Noble split off to do a side promotion called KVT, or Keep the Vibe Thick. In 2003, Clubland picked up right where it left off. There was a new night, Bump to This, hosted by MC Insight, which made use of Temple Billiards, home to Onset. By 2003, you were able to catch drum and bass Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Kid Hawks teamed up with Chop Suey for special one-off events, bringing out Goldie and many others. Bent continued at Aristocrats and was receiving even more love from local press such as The Stranger. Set Speed was still moving full steam ahead and was continuing to bring out the finest local selectors. Twilight continued as Motor Booty continued to represent the drum and bass sounds every other Friday at Aristocrats. This night helped contribute to the drum and bass community by adding a whole new crowd of faces and a list of fresh DJs for everybody to hear. 2003 was a year Chop Suey was reaching out to the drum and bass community, and promoter Marcus Lalario, along with 360 BPM, brought through some exciting tours. Adam F. and DJ Craze put on an unparalleled performance. The two got up there with 4 decks mixed in turntablism, multi-deck mixing, the gang showmanship, and they had the crowd jumping for more. In 2004, and the oversaturation of years past had caught up with Seattle drum and bass. The all-ages action was non-existent. The spot had stopped doing shows. But Zacharia and Demo of the 360 BPM, always concerned about the community, stepped up to the plate and started a series of all-ages events called For Junglists By Junglists. These weren't exactly permitted events, but then again, the city of Seattle always made that hard. They were more like house parties, BYOB with bitchin' sound and a $5 cover. After seeing the success of For Junglists By Junglists, Zacharia and Demo brought on Rob Noble of KVT to help lighten some of the workload. The vibe and the intimacy of these parties was something that was missing currently from the clubland, and not only did the all-ages kids gravitate to these shows, soon the 21 and up crowd was there instead of at the clubs. The focus of the nights were good times and good drum and bass. before Junglists by Junglists always brought in local selectors, which provided the best party atmosphere. It truly was like a great house party. .360BPM continued their summer session series, this year partnering up with KBT under the Needle and Kaos Theory to present Keaton and DJ Inc. The story in Clubland for 2004 was no better. Aristocrats had closed, and Nitsu and Rince were forced to take their night down the street to Bonsai. Terso took his night up to Capitol Hill and renamed it Safari. ...2004 saw many new nights and many new promoters make a go at it, but unfortunately, the city at this point just wasn't able to support more new drum and bass. I should say by more, I mean more than 4 nights a week. That doesn't mean in the slightest Seattle would pass a good opportunity for an excellent one-off event like Dillinger and Lemon D.
Onset started on a Thursday, 2002. There were 4 of us that came up with the initial concept. Tamin, myself, Micah, and DJ Telly, who was the mastermind. In the beginning, Onset kind of started as a platform for locals to come and play if they didn't have any other outlets. Drum and bass was still relatively new in Seattle. DnB Tuesdays had a few years on us, and that was going at full steam, but there was so much interest from locals to have a venue to play, and Onset kind of was the answer to that, which is testament to its popularity, and it subsequently became a place for some of the largest up-and-coming acts to come through. 05, 06, 07 just kind of took off from there because it was such a unique venue, and you can have 100 people in there and have a good party, or you can have 250, 300 people in there and have a really rockin' party. Logistically, it might not be the best venue as far as the stairway down to the venue and having one bar, but that was kind of the idea. It was like you were packed in your friend's basement and you're underground, and that's really what I think kept Onset going for so long. I'd say the glory years of Onset, right around 05, 06, 07, 08, we had the regular sort of stateside hard DnB guys coming through every year, or sometimes multiple times a year. And that was guys like Evil Intent, Infiltrator, who is now 12th Planet, E1, who is now Kill the Noise, the DJ for Korn, Spore, Chris Renegade. They were in the UK, but they were coming through a lot as well. Onset and Mayhem, of course. So those were good years for Onset, and some of my favorite shows were during that time frame. We've been able to bring up and comers from all over the place as a result, based on the interest on guys like that, and guys like Black Sun Empire and Face, Misanthrope. It's been great being able to bring them to Seattle.
Get this shot for the home crew.
I love it when things take a turn for the dirty. I've been holding back too a lot lately. There's been like all sorts of just dirty remarks going through my head.
It's video. You can move.
Oh, yeah.